We've all heard the term smart city thrown around a lot, right? But what does it really mean when you get past all the buzzwords? Well, today we're going to cut right through the hype. We're going to look at a practical framework that can turn all that city data into smarter, faster decisions for everyone who actually lives there. All right, let's get into it.
So picture this. So many cities today are just drowning in data. I mean, they've got sensors on everything. Traffic lights, garbage cans, water pipes, you name it. They're collecting these massive mountains of information. But then, when a real crisis hits, they're still somehow playing catch-up. So what gives? Well, it's because just having the data isn't enough, not even close. The real trick is turning that flood of information into coordinated, effective action.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? We have plenty of dashboards. We've got all the charts and graphs we could ever want, showing us what's happening. But what we actually need is more action. Faster emergency response, traffic that actually flows, using our city's resources way more efficiently. There's this huge gap between just seeing the data and doing something truly intelligent with it. So why do so many of these promising smart city projects just stall out? Well, it usually comes down to these core issues. You've got different vendor solutions that don't talk to each other. Every single city department has its own separate dashboard. Incidents are always handled after they happen, reactively. And there's no good way to analyze data across departments, let alone predict what's coming next. It's the classic case of being data-rich but completely action-poor.
All right, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, we have to move beyond just sticking more sensors on things. We need a whole new vision for how a smart city should work, one that's built on actual intelligence, not just a pile of data.
So the goal here isn't to build yet another dashboard. It's to build something called an operational intelligence layer. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a central nervous system for the whole city. It's a single, unified system that connects the dots between everything, from traffic and public safety to utilities and waste management.
Okay, so what does this platform actually do? Well, its mission is pretty clear. First, integrate all that data that's stuck in silos. Second, connect all the departments so they're finally working from the same playbook. Third, start predicting what's coming down the pipe. And finally, actually automate some of the responses. It's about creating a city that can truly think and, more importantly, act.
Now, this all sounds pretty great in theory, but how do you actually build something like this? Well, good news. There's a blueprint. We're about to walk through a clear 6-step framework that can take a city from just having raw data all the way to intelligent, automated action. And here it is. You can think of it like a staircase to intelligence. Each layer builds directly on the one right before it, so you have this solid foundation with a really clear purpose. We start at the bottom with understanding the why, the intent, and we climb all the way to the top, to real, concrete actions. This is our roadmap. So let's really dig into these layers and see how they work together. It's this progression that takes us from just seeing what's happening to actually predicting what's going to happen.
Okay, everything, and I mean everything, starts with layers 0 and 1. This is the foundation. Before you even think about a single sensor, you have to define your intent. What specific problem are you trying to solve? Let's say it's something like, we need to reduce our response time to flash floods. Then you establish your data foundation, making absolutely sure that the information coming from rain gauges, river sensors, and traffic cams is reliable and secure.
And it all boils down to these two critical questions. They make sure the whole project is driven by actual, real-world outcomes, not just by cool technology. I mean, if you can't answer why you're collecting the data, and if you can't trust that data, the whole system is basically built on sand.
All right, let's put this to the test. Imagine a big storm hits our city. This brings us to layer 2, descriptive insights. This is where we get that single, unified view of the entire city. So instead of the water department seeing one thing and the traffic department seeing something else, now everyone is looking at the exact same picture in real time.
This whole layer is about giving one shared answer to that simple but super powerful question: what is happening right now? The rain gauges show 2 inches of rain just fell in the northern hills. Traffic sensors show cars are already slowing down on the main bridge. And the river sensors? They're rising and fast. Everyone is finally on the same page.
So, once you can see what's happening, the next logical step is to understand why it matters. And that's layer 3. Diagnostic insights. This is where the system starts automatically connecting the dots. It sees the heavy rainfall, correlates it with the slowing traffic, and connects that to the rising river levels.
The core question here is always why. Why is this particular event a problem? The system starts digging into historical data and it finds the answer. A rainfall rate like this in this specific area has overwhelmed the storm drains and caused major flooding in the Lower Town district 8 out of the last 10 times it's happened. See, the data is now telling a story.
And this is where things get really, really powerful. Layer 4, predictive insights, is where we make the leap from just reacting to the present to actually anticipating the future. Using all those diagnostic insights, the system runs a model and makes a very specific forecast.
Answering this question, what is likely to happen next, is a total game changer. It allows the city to shift from being reactive to being proactive. The system predicts that, based on the current data, the Lower Town district is going to start flooding in about 75 minutes, and the intersection of Main and 3rd Street will probably be impassable. Instead of just reacting to an emergency, they can now get ahead of it.
And that brings us all the way to the top of our staircase, Layer 5, prescriptive insights. This is the crucial final step where all that intelligence finally meets action. The system doesn't just flash a warning on a screen. It takes that prediction and translates it into automated, real-world responses.
So based on that flood prediction, it automatically triggers an alert to Public Works to get crews out with sandbags. It notifies traffic control to start rerouting vehicles away from Lower Town right now. And it escalates the incident to the Office of Emergency Management, recommending they get shelters ready to go. This is how intelligence helps run a city better.
So when you put all these layers together, what do you really get? Well, you get a city that doesn't just collect a ton of data, you get a city that actually thinks and responds intelligently. And here are the real-world payoffs. Look, this isn't just about cool tech. We're talking about tangible improvements. Faster response times during an emergency. Way better coordination between city departments. Less unplanned downtime for critical equipment. And smarter use of city resources across the board. Every decision is backed by solid data.
You know, there's a quote from the source material that just nails the whole spirit of this framework. The success metric is operational improvement, not the number of dashboards created. And that's it, right? Ultimately, this is all about making the city work better for the people who actually live there.
This whole journey we've been talking about, it's about one fundamental transformation. Moving a city from being data-rich but action-poor to becoming truly data-driven and, most importantly, action-ready. And that really leaves us with a final question for you to think about. Is your city just collecting data, or is it actively building the intelligence it needs to create a better future for everyone? Thanks for joining this explainer.